a lot of my people that I associate with, and we have pods all over the United States, and even in other countries, working on the same things that I am, raising the consciousness and building, if you will, the way to, this is the house in Prescott, to modify transportation and habitation, putting them in one thing, which is a spaceship, coming from the Flintstones to the Jetsons. And we then, because we know how, just knowing, we're not any different than you guys, but we teleport by just our feelings, by using our intuition, by clearing our mind. The same way I got here to San Jose. I don't recall unless I need to or want to. I don't recall the airplane flight or the misery of this and that or anything. I just remember I was in my living room a week ago. We're saying we're going to San Jose, and then I remember being here. That's all you need to know. You don't need to know anything else unless you want to. Then you can build in your past, and you can build in your future. But they're both kind of a waste of time in a sense, because you can do it instantly. Now, the reason we're building and have been building and introducing spaceships is to get people to get up into the state of mind where they don't need a spaceship. They can teleport anywhere without one. But in the realms of a dimension like the third dimension, if you want to call it that, where they enjoy their cars, they enjoy the transportation, and they would love to have a spaceship, that's fine. Let's build them and let them operate in them. There's no problem. And I've had people say, well, that's all in the future. What about now? Well, now is the future, and it's the past. It's all in one. And we're already there. We're already everywhere. And it's our sleeping mode, which we have allowed to continue, or our creature comforts, which are nice, that have compelled us to kind of stay in the box where it's comfortable. Because once you step out of the box, the fear of ridicule, of disbelief, and all those things you think will come at you. But if you do it with courage and knowing that you're not going to run into any opposition, that fear, as once stated, is nothing to fear but itself. It's a balance. Fear is good on one side, and on the other, it's not too good to get too involved with it. So when you get to a point where you can start practicing more and more the ideas, and you don't want to go so far as to teleport, which you're already doing. Every one of us are doing this now. We just don't realize it. But you would rather have a spaceship. There's people like our groups that are already building these. They're waiting in the wings now to be, in fact, within the next 2 years, you're going to see a lot of them around. But this is only by our acceptance. We've been offering them for years and years and years, and they've been unacceptable, either by the general public or by the powers that be that like to put meters on things and sell you the power, which is unnecessary. Let's see. I think I'll open it up to questions. If you got any questions, I think I can probably go faster with questions if you've got any. Oh, the house took 7 months with just 2 people, my wife and I, building it by hand. We had a backhoe dig the hole because we started digging it and we didn't get anywhere. And we built the whole house by ourselves in 7 months. The total cost of the house, when we got done with it, lumber, all all the materials everywhere, was just under $5,000. And it was, it's still there. We were down, Marcia Brown, who's in the audience right now, and of course my wife, Ruthie, were just there not too long ago. And the house is still there, still as strong as the day we built it. It's built like an eggshell, you know. The more pressure from the outside makes it stronger on the inside. Did we reinforce it? It had rebar every 4 feet. It was all built to code because that was one of the things that we ran into. We went there to build spaceships. We were going to build a giant 45-foot craft with incorporated principles of levitation. And we went down to get our permits, and we knew nothing about permits. We started doing things out there, and they came out and said, "Where's your permit?" And we had to go down and talk to them, and they said, "Well, you can't do that. You can't." And we had plans. The first picture you saw, my wife drew out the plans of what we wanted in a house, a circular house. And we took that down, and they said, "Well, yeah, but there's no way to anchor this. You want it off the ground." I said, "Yeah, we're just going to use, a little levitation." And they said, "No, no, 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 no." And then we had they said, "We can't issue a permit on that. You're going to have to anchor it. You're going to have rebar. You're going to have to reinforcement." And it was this way all along. We went to build a septic system. There was one in Sweden that was imported to the north of somewhere in Africa that it recycled everything, a septic system. It was the gases would siphon off methane gas, and they cooked with it. And because of the purification process within this, everything could go back in your garden without any trouble at all. It was all pure, and it would go back into recycling. Well, I took these plans up to them, and I said, "This is a bona fide system that works, and I'd like to get a permit." And they said, "No, you have to have a septic tank, and you have to have leach lines, and you have to ruin we had a beautiful flower garden," and they said, no, you'll have to run all these leach lines down through the flower garden. Well, those are the things we kept running into. And they said, "If you want power, you're going to have to pay, I don't know, it was $10,000 or $12,000 to get a line out to us." And I said, "No, we don't need power because we use solar panels, photovoltaic. We operate everything off of solar power. We had inverters so we could get from 12 to 110 volts of power." This is Chris's craft, by the way, when he moved it up to the mountains.
Does this thing levitate or just on the water?
Huh? That was the one that was on the water.
Does it levitate on land?
I never saw it levitate on land. I don't know, but it did. It was a water machine. So this is sacred geometry, the way the house was built. We had for our water, we had air wells. We drew water out of the air. They wanted too much money to drill a well. And we studied and found out from different publications, one of them being Mother Earth News, that air wells existed, so we could build them. So we followed some diagrams and built air wells, and voila, we were getting 2 and 3 gallons a day right out of the air. Well, we started with believe it or not, what do you call these styrofoam chest that you put ice in? Ice chest. And all we did was tilt the top of it at a 45-degree angle, just the lid, about, at a 45-degree angle. And the next morning we had 2 or 3 inches of water in it from condensation. So then we modified that, and we studied if you build up rocks in a kind of like a beehive, and shape the rocks so that there's dripping into a cistern, that we could collect more and more water. So we had a small one that we developed, and we were getting 1 to 2 gallons a day out of that. So we didn't need, and it was pure water. It was really, really good water. And we had solar panels for heating We had serpentine, copper tubing, where we heated our water, and we had hot water all the time. We had a telephone system. They said they wanted enormous funds to bring a line out. And I said, no, we don't need it. We went to school at the college there and took a course in ham radio. We had to learn Morse code in those days. But we had 2 radios that we bought for about $50, and they had a patch line like a telephone on it, and we could call anywhere in the world, patch through, for nothing. It didn't cost us a dime, and we could talk as long as we wanted. So we had, yes?
I'd love to hear about stuff that's outside of my reality.
Oh, it's outside of your reality? Okay, well.
I built houses and done all that, and this is totally interesting, but I may never get to hear you speak ever again. I don't know how long you're going to live. And if you could give me some incredible information that I can get started on changing the world, it would be really cool.
Is that good or bad? I don't know. Okay, well, I think your question was how you build a spaceship. Well, find some inventors and become friends with them and tell them you want to build a spaceship. You can do that. That's the slow way. Or you can just create in your mind that you want to build a spaceship and start imagining. That's the power. Your imagination is everything you need to do anything. You just have to know that and use it. Start imagining, well, I want it this shape, I want it that shape, I'd like to have this, and then let it go. Don't think about it, because it'll block you. And pretty soon, somebody's going to walk up to you and say, you know what? I'm a builder, and I want to build a spaceship. It'll happen. I promise you, that's the way it happens. It'll come to you. If you hold on and you have the faith, these people will start showing up. That's what's happening.
I got like 10 of them I'm working with now.
Okay. Good. You've been there, done that then. You're getting there. Getting there. Well, my wife will testify. Yes, sir. Okay. My wife will testify, and so will Marcia Brown, my right hand and left hand and assistant, that we've, a long time ago, decided that we wanted to travel and get around and meet more and more people. And we thought, well, that's great, but travel is expensive and costly and so forth. And we, at that time, Marcia had a 9-to-5 job. And she said, well, I've got to hang on to this job. I got to pay my bills. They all want money every month. And what do I do? And I said, well, just trust yourself and trust me long enough to let go and come out of the box. And she said, no, isn't that true? And I said, it will work. I'm there. I've been doing it for years and years and years. I've never worried about anything most of my life, 90% of my life. Everything's come to me. So Marcia, trusting me and trusting herself, and we constantly talked about this, gradually said, okay, I'm coming out of, she worked with corporate level. She was in General Electric and so forth, on a corporate level, and executive this and that, and she said, no more. Okay, I'm going to trust this. I'm going to go out and try it. Well, it's been, what, 3, 4 months, 5 months? Huh? Since January. No visible income as such, but she sustained herself. We're now out traveling. We're going all over. We've been to Salt Lake. We've been to, where else have we been? Laughlin, Nevada. We're being invited back to Hawaii. We're going back to Salt Lake. And the expenses are not fully covered, so I have to, kind of pitch in with my Social Security to make things match. And the DVDs. Oh, yeah. Oh, we got DVDs back there with all kinds of information. It's back on table 36. Sorry.
Are you allowed to talk about anything past where you're talking?
Allowed to what?
Are you allowed to talk about anything technical, or is something?
Oh, yeah, sure. Anything you want. Anything that I'm not I'm a technician, but I'm not a nuts and bolts person, because I've gone beyond that. I used to tinker and put things together and make them work, like I mentioned upstairs. I did a few things, and I've done a lot of those things. But now I find I don't have to do them, because if I want something really complicated done, that's out of my bracket, I just create the idea, and somebody shows up and say, "Oh, I'm a builder. Come on, I'll build it for you," and it happens.
On the construction of your house, I'm looking at these slides as you're talking. It looks like you have French, you live in French.
Yes.
Is that for seeping groundwater?
Well, no, it was we lived on a hill about like this, and we dug in this way, and so there was a lot of runoff from the rain and everything.
Yeah, and I was wondering, how did you actually deal with runoff on the roof of the house? Did you catch that water and use it for?
Yeah, we captured the water and reused it all the time. With rainwater, we had a cistern. It was 100%, we had all the water we wanted.
So the water from the roof ran into the French drain and then?
And into a cistern, pipe, PVC pipe, and into a cistern, and it would collect. I don't know what the rainfall is in that area, but it collected enough so we didn't have to worry about water. And our gardens would all take care of themselves. We had sensors next to the plants that would sense when they were hungry or when they were thirsty, and they would turn themselves on, and we could go where we were finally restricted from building spaceships in Chino Valley. A scientist showed up by the name of Walter Baumgartner, who wrote a book, a magazine, entitled Energy Unlimited. I don't know if it's still available. You could look it up. But he's a brilliant German scientist, and he heard about what I was doing. He came over to Chino Valley, and I told him I'm having trouble building spaceships. We built some small modules and operated them around the valley that we were in, and the people around us. There was only a few homes, but they were wondering what these things were flying around their valley at night, because they would illuminate, and even in the day they were kind of brighter than the sun. And so they got kind of wondering what we were doing. And then we had all kinds of inspectors coming out, checking our foundations, checking our credentials, checking everything. Well, that time, I just called Mother Nature. I said, "Mom, I need some help here." And along came Walter Baumgartner. He showed up one day and said, "Hey, I'll build them. I've got 40 acres isolated in New Mexico, and we'll build them over there." I said, "Great, let's do that." So my wife and I at that time started going back and forth. It was in Magdalena, New Mexico. And Walter started building these things. And when we left our house, our plants would take care of themselves. And we'd come back and we'd have carrots, potatoes, we'd have everything there when we got back, because everything was taking care of itself. And then the way we cooked, we had on top of our solar hot water collector, we had a glass that over the top of it that went into kind of a V shape and had that lined with aluminum, and that was our oven. We had a solar oven. And we go pull things out of the ground, out of our garden, put them in there, and go to work on the house. And by the time we were hungry, there was fresh vegetables already cooked. So everything we did was natural. Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Can't do this, can't do that. The synchronicity plays out.
Uh-huh.
And I see that in your own explanation of your life, with these people coming in right at the right time, the systems that are processed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, really what we need to do is pull away from the negative people who are into a lot of destructive
No.
things.
Don't pull away from the negative people. Those are your friends. You don't know this, but they're your friends, and they might be your best friends. Because where you are making a mistake, which we oftentimes don't want to admit, it can be seen by someone other than yourself, and in a way that you might not like. But you have to have respect for that and love that incident. and feel blessed for it happening, because they will accelerate you to the next level if you accept them and accept that as beyond positive and negative, as a knowingness that you're growing. And this is necessary. Contrast in a world of duality is necessary. If you don't have if you don't have the dark, you can't have the light. If you don't have the right, you don't have the wrong. So there's a contrast.
So are you saying that we transcend through waves of going back and forth?
Yes. In vortex, in essence, you're spiraling. We're all spiraling, whether we know it or not. If you lay underneath a pine tree and you look up, those branches aren't coming out like this. They're coming out like this. Everything's spiraling. And you cut the tree in half and look in the center, it's all circles, concentric.
Like the electron particles going through the
Exactly. Same thing. Right. And this gets back to the point that everything is one. There's only one truth. There's only one thing. There's only one. And when you focus on that, that's how you walk through the walls. You forget anything else, that there's only one. And it's dissected by you. The energy you use to observe it changes it into frames of reference. And when you look at something, you can change it. The Heisenberg principle, which some of you, I suppose, are familiar with, changed our way of looking at things. Through the electron microscope, scientists thought, well, here's an atom, and this is absolute. This is where we are. But it kept eluding them. They couldn't nail it down, because they'd look again and it would change, and look again and it would change. And Heisenberg said, that's simple. The energy of who and what you are energy, and your energy in observing that object changes what you see. And there is no absolute, unless you want to make an absolute. There is only infinity. We've always been, we always will be. Everything already is. And when you observe something, like the wall, you're changing that molecular structure in that wall. You're changing the composition of who and what you are. And there's one other thing. You have to respect the wall, or you have to respect your adversaries, your enemies, your negative people, for who and what they are, and let it go.
Right. I'm just saying I don't have to necessarily join in that.
Right.
So what I want to know is, ran into Daniel Fry at the right time.
Yes.
I read his book, The White Sands Incident.
Okay.
And I'm wondering, who else was in that group with you? And was there anybody else who was, let's say, on Fry's level of consciousness, dialing into that group? What were you all up to at that point?
We had achieved at that point a collective understanding of being able to, I have to say a limited sense, teleport. I have to say a limited sense, be able to do things by thought alone. We just, like the parking spaces, we all know that one. That you can create its parking space by being in the right state of mind at the right time. There it is. And that's how simple everything is. We can do that with everything we encounter. But the thing about an adversary, or a thing about any kind of opposition, like our greatest opposition was the government and the oil people and the people that run the energy companies and the investment people that put money in to make the world go round. We, at one time, we resented that, and they were kind of our, oh no, those guys are going to stop us, those aren't. And then Carr, through his wisdom, said, no, love those guys, because they're keeping you on track, they're keeping you going. It's like a grain of sand in an oyster. Unless it keeps that constant agitation, it never becomes a pearl. It has to have that agitation. Just learn to accept, enjoy, and feel blessed by that agitation. So that then turns things around where you have to love everybody, because they're you and you are they. And they're just, and I'm a mirror to you, you're a mirror to me. So we're all telling each other how to affect a change in what we want in our lives. Yes, ma'am. Could you stand up so they can hear you? I'm sorry. I don't think anybody can hear you. Okay. Oh. Well, let's see. Uh, okay. And this was told to me by Carr. He said, I'm going to tell you something now that it'll probably be years before you'll be able to relate it to anybody because they may not understand what I'm talking about. But the spaceships are a ploy. They are a ploy to get people to get back into who and what they are, to get back into themselves, to their soul, if you will, and get into their creative powers. Now, they can have the spaceships, and they can have more, as we call it. Not either or, but more all the time. Never accept either or, because you're always going to go around, I have to give up this to get that. That's not the case. All you have to do is say and don't accept anything less than that, and your life will become full of wonderful things happening all the time. I've got more junk in my garage now than I ever wanted. I mean, it just comes in. Guys keep throwing computers and oscilloscopes and everything at me now. And I have to stop it because I realize that does happen. But I forgot the question. Well, I can't really speak for Tesla because I didn't know him. I can speak somewhat for Carr. They realized that we were progressively digging ourselves our own graves on this planet, that eventually we would become extinct if we kept on the path that we were on. And he felt, as Tesla did, that there needed to be some way to get to people, to hit their hearts and their mind at the same time, to get them to realize that there are simpler ways to do things. There are in abundance. We have the sun, we have the wind, we have the water. All those are powers, tremendous powers in all those things that we're not using. The energy companies are building frivolous solar panels with photovoltaic possibilities. They say, well, that's all we can do and it's very expensive. No, that's not true. You can do much more with the sun than they're doing. So Carr said we have to find a way to wake people up. Let's build these craft, let's fly them around, let's show them, hey, there's something here, take a look. And then they have to go to themselves. That's what we wanted them to do. Not to us, show us how to build it and all that. But wonder what that is. How did they do that? To get them thinking, to provoke thought.